everyone, it's Jen Frazier. It's what time is it? Oh, look at that! It's noon Eastern. It's a Thursday,
Noon
so
Eastern.
it's another episode of UnTangled. Here we are on LinkedIn Live. I am here with Ben Childers.
Hey,
Ben,
everyone. Hey,
hey.
Jen.
Let's see. Your official title is co-founder and CEO of
Official,
Stratovation Partners.
official
So
title.
official. I know that's my nerd move. Official title. Uh, and we are here to talk about all the cool and scary shit happening in AI land.
Yeah.
It's a flavor of the issues we talk about every week here on Untangled with like nonprofits, do-gooders, tech, what's happening. It's all a mess. Let's untangle it together. Let's find our way forward. Let's help our mission-driven organizations do great work. And obviously right now, a big, huge part of this is how are we tackling and doing great things with AI rather than maybe letting the evil overlords control the space. We want to get involved. We want to make sure we're using it effectively, being thoughtful about it. And Ben, you've been just diving in into this topic. So first of all, maybe tell folks a little bit who you are, what you do, and then let's dive into the in-person gatherings you've been putting together around AI.
Yeah, for sure. So, about 18 months ago, I co-founded Stratovation Partners with my two co-founders, Mon Sakdalen and Eric Rubin. And we're a growth and expansion consultancy for the entire sector. So we work with agencies, we work with nonprofits, and we work with the technology vendors that we all rely on. And that's been going really well. It's been an exciting 18 months to build something, especially not having a consultancy background and trying to be a consultant has been a lot of fun. But it's good to do new things. So yeah, I mean that is my full-time gig. I also run a podcasting and audio experience company with my brother Patrick called Odd Conduit Media, and primarily we do branded podcasts for nonprofits. Is our main thing that we do, which is a ton of fun. And I help him with that more so than do anything substantial there anymore. But then the biggest piece of news, which I am so excited to announce, is that I've been running a series of events called Cool/Scary AI Shits for a little more than a year now. We did a beta version a year ago in Portland, Oregon. And then we did our first official one the day before NTC in Baltimore in April, where Jen spoke and and Firefly Partners was a sponsor there, which was amazing. And then we just did one 3 weeks ago in Brooklyn, and we got lots of positive feedback and lots of people who were really excited about it. And so we actually made the decision that has been converted into its own nonprofit. And it is a standalone entity that is a nonprofit that exists and has 3 key program areas that it will focus on. And so it will do what we're going to call the flagship events, which are the ones that we will host. But overall, it is attempting to be a decentralized event platform, just like the TEDx structure. And so the idea is that we really feel like we need more and more people talking about their communities, feelings, and impacts of AI on the social impact sector. And we can't do that alone. And so we're really looking for folks out there that want to run their own version of this half-day conference. And so that's the biggest program area that the nonprofit focuses on, is really just how can we activate as many of these summits globally as we can, and then get those learnings and trends shared back out. So that way we can really help move the needle as an overall sector. And so really, really pumped. I mean, we signed the paperwork like 2 days ago to convert it. And then I knew I had this coming up, and it seemed like a great time to talk about it. So
So what's the name of the nonprofit is?
Cool/Scary AI Shit. I don't know.
Oh my God. You want to know though that we were trying to promote this, and I think LinkedIn or some algorithm somewhere wouldn't let us do it until we did the asterisk and made it not actually say shit, but actually had to say,
Yes,
so I don't know.
yes.
Was that a thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, like in the digital space, so we use an exclamation points for the I.
Okay.
Right.
Perfect.
So that is our kind of like workaround. The problem is that exclamation points break lots of things when it comes to coding.
That's a
So
whole
yeah,
other thing. Right.
so we tend to just end up doing SHT in lots of
Right.
places.
Perfect.
But it
Perfect.
was really funny. I was at an event. I was speaking at an event last night for N10, which is a wonderful organization. If you know our watchers and listeners aren't aware
Yeah.
that really kind of they're trying to build up as much technology prowess at nonprofits as possible,
Yeah.
and a great event that was put on. But one of the things that came up there was all around just like I had a bunch of there was a woman there from the library because it was at the library and she was interested in like partnering. She's like, I don't know though if we can like run like I don't know what about the name. And I was like, well,
Exactly.
we put an exclamation point for the I. And she's like, great, we'll make it work. And I was
I know. It's a thing. That's totally cool though. So
yeah,
great. I'm excited to know more. And I do think these events are great. It was great to participate in the one at
yeah.
NCC. And then there are future events maybe in the hopper.
There are future events. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So
And
in October, we're looking for a DC one, and then in early November, we are partnering with the AI for Nonprofit folks. They have these series of AI learning sessions, like
okay.
one day like learning sessions that they're doing. I think they
Yeah.
have 5 scheduled out right now. The first one's
Okay.
actually in Oakland on September 30th.
Okay.
My partner Eric will be there.
Great.
Um, but they're doing another one in the Bay Area on the 5th of November. So I
Okay.
think our plan is to do our event on the 4th in partnership with them.
Okay.
And then Jen,
I know. I know.
Denver Boulder,
I know.
you know,
We've been talking about Denver Boulder. We're just going to do quick shout outs to Ted Fickus, Clinton
Ted,
O'Brien,
Clint,
Peter Genuardi,
Peter.
just throwing some names down. Boom. Anybody else in the Denver Boulder area interested in participating in, an event or helping plan said event around cool and scary AI shit, please get in touch with me.
Yes,
And let's make it happen sometime in November, hopefully before the full holiday craziness gets going. Would be
totally.
awesome. So give us a sneak peeker. Let's talk about what things you all have been talking about besides the one I went to. I know there's been the other ones, and Pam
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Firefly was at the Brooklyn one, but like, what are
Yes.
some of the let's talk about some of the major themes or some of the major like takeaways that you've been able to sort of pull from doing this, several of these with all sorts of cool people from various facets, against software folks, nonprofit
Right.
folks, other agency folks. What are the themes or top things you're sort of pulling out right now?
So I think the biggest thing that we are really starting to see is just this idea of experimentation and play
Mhm.
to push AI adoption forward in a way that I think runs counter to traditional change management practices that, in all honesty, a lot of senior leaders in nonprofits right now feel like is the way that you have to adopt new technologies, that you really need to do that kind of like unfreeze, rearrange, refreeze model,
Yeah.
instead of doing a much more modern change management where you put some light guardrails up for folks,
Right.
you give them the flexibility and the responsibility to engage with new tools in meaningful ways,
Hmm.
and then you see what kind of innovation comes out of there that can really help push forward your either operating model, your business model, or your impact model at your
Hmm.
organization.
Hmm.
And I think the orgs that we see that are on the that people are going to be jealous of, in like 6 to 12 months,
Yeah.
aren't the ones that had large corporate mandates that were really top
Oh,
down and heavy about you have to use XYZ, you have to produce this, you have to do that. I think it's going to be those organizations that really opened up the innovation valve and used AI as really a catalyst for a more entrepreneurial class of employees.
yeah. It's a really interesting thing. When I was talking to the other Ben about just sort of like getting going, like what's the thing?
Hmm.
It's like it's kind of similar, just like this idea that I think because software or different technologies in the past have sort of been like, great, here's a product, and
Hmm.
it's relatively, you know, as it is, and fine. There's a
Right.
development roadmap, and there's things that'll come out. Oh, there's a release or whatever, but it's sort of like a thing, and you can be like, great. and then you can look at it, you can demo it, you can whatever, you can try, and then you can think,
Totally.
okay, are we going to adopt this into our organization, have a whole change management plan and blah, 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 like do let's hold
Right,
up the
right,
brain.
right.
Like AI is so fluid right now and things are so moving at such an incredible pace that I think that old model of adoption is sort of just out the window. Like you're kind of like, oh, nice try. Like the second you think you're going to go, oh, we're going to do this, oh, and then that thing has moved, or that, you don't
Yeah,
really have that. So it's true. You need to sort of say, and I think it's a challenge for a lot of organizations
it
to
is.
try to
It
be more
is.
fluid.
you know but I mean, my challenge would be is that I think if you talk to most nonprofit leaders, like they would definitely espouse ideas like decentralizing power
Mhm.
and pushing into the margins and activating their organizations, or they would at least pay lip service to that. And I think this is a real interesting opportunity to like challenge that lip service and see what actually comes out.
Yeah.
To be like, well, you've said you wanted to push more delegated authority,
Yeah.
like why can't we do that here? And I think there are real opportunities, especially because we're in an interesting position as like putting like my consultant hat back on,
Yeah.
where we do growth and expansion consultancy in a sector that is currently undergoing its biggest traction events that it's ever gone through.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it like, my guess is when people look back at this won't even compare to the Great Recession in terms of like the contraction that is happening, like specifically in the nonprofit
Yeah.
sector. And I've had a lot of people like that, meet me at networking events and be like, oh, like, is that a weird place to be in, to be pitching growth and expansion in a sector that's contracting? And really, the answer is no, because it's such an opportunity. Because if you're at an organization and you're at a nadir, like I was talking to somebody who they had to lay off a third of their staff, right?
Yeah.
And they're on the other side of it. It's like, well, you only go one way from there, right?
Yeah.
And our pitch is like, okay, how could we do that in a way that centers the entire community that you're trying to impact, right?
Yeah.
And be thinking much more broadly about that.
Yeah.
And that may or may not include the deployment of artificial intelligence in various places.
Exactly.
But it's an interesting catalyst that could provide, especially I'd say the biggest place that we advocate for it. And actually, Joshua Pesquet,
Well done. Yep.
he gave a talk about this at our Brooklyn events,
Okay.
and he had a great title for an event. What was it? It was "Vibing is Awesome, but Then What? The Cool and Scary Reality of AI Generated Applications."
Yeah.
And so he not only gave a talk, but also vibe coded during that talk to like build the application. And his whole pitch was like the ability to get prototypes stood up this quickly to understand how do we then iterate, what can we learn from
Yeah.
that prototype in like a classic design thinking model.
Right.
It really allows more people across your organization access to new tools to solve problems, right?
100%.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I think you can do, I think, some coding, like I can do like almost no coding. So that has never been like a tool set that I could tap into.
Right.
Right. And I kind of like equate it that way to like what if you never learn to like write or
Mhm.
draw? Like
Yeah.
it is a tool set. Like I am not a writer, but I can certainly write to get an idea across. You know what I
Yes.
mean? I'm not a very good artist, but I can certainly like sketch out flows and diagrams and kind of like convey my message that way. And it's another tool for thinking.
Yeah.
And I think his argument that he was making is like great for prototyping. And then his pitch was, okay, well now how do you QA it and have like a DevOps process that can actually like ingest this new thing?
Right.
And I think I would say most organizations should just be focusing on that first part of that. Great.
Yeah.
These are internal things. How do we just get people to use them more as like a tool for thinking?
Absolutely. And that was part of our thing too, is like, let's just try to not go too far, into the like, what could it possibly do? It can do a lot. And like, it is also sort of this big, amorphous, like growing
Yeah.
idea of what AI really is or what it consists of and what we're using today. And just basically saying, yeah, just like least jump in, innovate, like
Yeah.
try things. And I get the I do agree. There's like, okay, there's some policies. Let's maybe do some basic, like, okay, we're going to adopt this tool for the organization or this one, and we're going to make it a paid
Sure.
version. We're going to keep things, secure and not share into the Borg or whatever. But, outside of that, I think it's really an opportunity for leaders to encourage that dispersed innovation mindset.
Yeah.
Like, just really try a thing and they go, okay, you did it and it worked really well for you. Is this then an opportunity to create some efficiencies across everybody with this sort of, kind of silly, piece of mundane whatnot that we all have to do?
Right.
Great, let's adopt that. And then you can start to get really comfortable with it. I think a lot of things right now, there's, like I said on one on the show too, there's still a healthy dose of sort of fear and kind of, this is scary. I don't know it. I'm not like a technical person. And you're like, yeah, you don't need to be. That's the whole
Right.
point, is that
Right.
you're kind of like hitting on, you don't need to be a coder. You don't need to do all these things. There's a million tools that are already available that you can just learn how to use that are out there, number one. But
Yeah.
also, there are opportunities right now to sort of say, I have an idea for something that I haven't actually even seen.
Hmm.
How hard is it to prototype something, new in this space? And,
Yeah.
that's where I think people could use maybe a little bit of guidance, and it's hard to
Yeah.
just dive into that space completely on your own. But it's cool to hear and see what people are doing once they have, gotten over the, like, okay, I just need to start using it. I think most
Yeah.
people are using it in some, shape or form at this
Yeah.
point. But it's like, okay, then what? And then what? And
Yeah.
what's the next thing? I think we don't even know. I think the biggest thing that I'm really thinking about right now is that people don't even know how to think about it appropriately yet, because it's so
Right.
different than anything we've used before. And it's sort of learning and changing nature. So different than traditional kind of software, if you will, of like what we've done in the past, where then there's a team of engineers somewhere that have to get involved to
Right.
build a
Right.
thing. And you're like, no, like that doesn't, that's a hard thing for you to think about. There's an idea that I have.
Yeah.
I could potentially make this into something without needing to be a coder or hiring a, room of developers or
Right.
whatever
Right.
to make something
Yeah.
happen.
And I think one of the biggest like mindset shifts that really is going to happen at the organizations that are able to make the most of this is that I think the idea of risk has been shifted away from most people and is kind of like set as like either like a yes or no binary choice, like when it comes to risk, right?
Mm,
And I think what the emergence of generative AI at organizations has done is really make more people understand that risk is, at a minimum, like a continuum, and
mhm,
really is maybe more like a matrix model in terms of how you really have to be thinking about it. And
mhm,
it's incumbent that throughout the organization, there is a clear understanding of the risk tolerance for certain, actions and activities when you want
mhm.
people to be more innovative, right?
Yeah,
So if you were vibe coding a to-do list like for your own personal work effort that you needed to do because you're an Asana company, you hate Asana personally, but your stuff has to go to Asana. You're
yeah,
like, it has to, right? But
yeah,
like you like so like what if you vibe coded your own like to-do list tool that like connected to Asana and like checked off and did the things it was supposed to do, but like you just got to use your little tool.
right,
Well, in my mind, very low risk exposure for something like that, so that person should feel really comfortable doing it.
right.
Versus I think the big thing people always talk about, like in our sector, is like, well, what about like PII and donor data? You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean? It's on the other side, that we want to do like on the fly, like reporting and manipulation like of data,
right.
right? And it's really much more like, so like in both those cases, like that is using AI and generative AI tools, right, to help someone do work in a more interesting way that
Yeah,
provides more value. But they're inherently they're on very different like risk models in
yeah,
terms of how you should be thinking about those, right? And so versus if we just say like AI bad or AI too risky,
yeah,
then I mean, in my challenge to people when they say that is like, okay, well, let's start to peel back everything you use, right? And see like where you're okay and where you're not okay, right? And I
Yeah.
think what you'll start to get is like, oh, it's a much more complicated risk picture
Yeah.
than what most people are kind of coming out and saying that they're comfortable with.
Yeah, it is like, I think that even that the model of that sort of leadership and things like that, letting go a little bit of that like tight control is an exercise in and of itself. But I think you're right. There's varying levels of risk there. They can evaluate and say, hey, I'm happy with my team to innovate or think of things as sort of in these kinds of areas, but maybe not these kinds of areas. Like I think it's okay to sort of set some of those guidelines as well, and definitely um, this whole, like the holy grail of like, oh, it's going to get in and it's going to look at all of our data and it's going to like find all these great trends and things that we're missing, or it's going to help me segment, or it's going to help me create all these great personalized, donor journeys, and it's all going to be beautiful and amazing in like 5 seconds or whatever. And like, yeah, but that requires it accessing your whole, list. So maybe that's
Right.
not really the
Right.
space that you want to go in. There's a million other ways to still do that, achieve that holy grail, but maybe not because you're going to upload all your lists into AI. That's a no.
That's a no. Yep.
Somebody
Definitely.
said that on some call or some talk or something, like, well, maybe that's not the worst thing. I'm like, no, let's just be, I don't want any listeners to
Yeah.
think, so maybe I should. I was like, no,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that was a hard pass.
Yeah.
We're not putting our donor list into
Yep.
AI
Yep.
ever, but there's ways it can help do some analysis and this and that,
Yep.
and all that kind of things. But it's like, it is for the organizations to sort of make these determinations, set some of those sort of loose guidelines, like you said at the beginning, and help really encourage folks on their teams to innovate in sort of the right way. I love the example you just gave of that Asana. Like, I hate that, but there's there's sort of like middleware ish
Yeah.
kind of
Yep.
thing you're
Yep.
doing. This is great. I actually want to just, type my data in this way,
Yeah.
and it takes it and puts it in the tool for you in the way that it's supposed to go in the tool. Just think of that as an application that you're like, oh my God, just already, I'm sure like that makes me go, I'd like to do that on like 25 things. I'm like, oh, like, don't
Yeah.
love the
Yeah.
tool. I don't love a specific thing about a tool. So
Right.
there's just lots of things that are, opening up. I think, again, this is the moment right now where there's a lot of just like, yeah, you're poking in, you're exploring, and it starts to open up different possibilities that you didn't even know to think about when we were first thinking about sort of basic generative AI is going to just, create my content or whatever. And it's starting to get folks past that initial, step in and being like, okay,
Absolutely.
what's that next space where I think really the power and the sort of breadth of innovation will really start to show itself in our sector. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. And I know we're kind of coming
Yeah.
up here to time. I think the other quick um, trends
Yes.
that I would talk about really has to do. This was Rachel Kimber, who is a colleague of mine on another project where we're launching an AI cohort. We actually class starts at 1 o'clock
I
today
know,
for our
like it's
first
going,
cohort,
right?
and we're like so excited. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so great. And then your old colleague Samin Pogoff,
Yeah.
and they were in conversation with each other on the topic why 101 still matters, building AI literacy that scales. And I was really excited when the three of us were kind of talking about what they could do a discussion about that would really meet the moment. Because I will say, like, our summits are designed for folks that are actively thinking and engaging with AI on a regular basis. Now, they may be accelerationists, they may be doomers, they may be somewhere in the middle, but
Right.
they're thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that they were pitching, that Rachel and Samin pitched as a part of their conversation, was this idea of like, it's great that we're having our meeting to have this like conversation because it's
Yeah.
important, right? But most organizations are so far away from a lot of the things that we're even discussing at our summits that they made a pretty compelling argument in their discussion that was really this like, hey, like, let's talk about why 101 still matters, right?
Yeah.
And that's, for instance, like why we were really happy, because we really feel like there are lots of great organizations like the AI for Nonprofits, like Tim Lockey,
Yeah.
who are doing some really great work there in the space to build up our entire sector's like knowledge sets.
Yeah.
And yeah, I say that's the other big trend is
Okay.
I don't run into too many people who are just like X is in front of them
Yes.
when it comes to any of this, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, great, how do we bring those people in a way that makes them feel empowered and that they get to be a part of the conversation?
Totally. I love that. I do. I just saw one post on LinkedIn the other day that was like, our organization has literally come out with a hard pass on AI. And there was so much like, what? Like,
Yes.
okay, and that felt very,
Yeah.
talk about risky of like, oh, you're just going to sit this one out. I don't think that's really how this is going to go. You're going to need to figure out
Exactly.
how to get
Yep.
in, like you say, as your team is ready, when you're able to sort of put your toe in, but also like don't get stuck behind a lot of bureaucratic red tape. That's the kind of
Right.
message right now for leaders is don't overthink it for a year and have committees upon committees, whatever, blah, blah, blah. This is a time to sort of let some of that innovation move forward without all the like 17 binders of rules and regulations about it. Like let it
Yeah.
be a little bit more organic. So I love that. Those are great takeaways and great tips and things for folks to noodle on. And so if you're interested out there and you're going, oh, I want to hear more. So tell us a little bit about the AI cohort. I know that's happening like actively right now.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
are
Yeah, so this is primarily it's in collaboration with Brad Caldana, who's at the Center for Digital Strategy,
Mhm.
and he brought together myself and three other folks, Rachel Kimber, Valerie Elric, and Ryan Miller, to
Yeah.
be the lead collaborators on actually designing this out. So it is a 12-week course. There are live sessions every week.
Mhm.
And then there are live tactical sessions as well that like dive into the tools.
Cool.
And you can definitely check out more. I will put links to everything. And we're accepting registrations to the end of the month.
Okay, great.
So if you're interested, we'd love to have you.
That would be great. And then we've got the, in-person gatherings that are happening. We'll circle back with Ted and Clint and Peter. We'll get the
Yep.
Denver Boulder Run going. There's stuff happening in the Bay Area. I don't know when you sleep, Ben, but maybe, you look, I know you're a big runner. So somehow you run and sleep and do all these things. So it's amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show and telling us a little bit about all the cool things that are happening in your world in the AI front. Lots of information for folks to think about and noodle on, and we'll drop links when we post the show later. But thanks for
Awesome.
that.
For sure.
And then next week, same time, noon Eastern, we'll be back here. I'm going to be joined by Tracy Evans, longtime friend.
Mm.
Now she was at San Francisco AIDS Foundation. Now she's at the Fred Hutch Cancer Center and is
Oh,
doing
yeah.
the Obliteride at the
Love it.
Fred Hutch, and it's totally just kicking ass and taking names over there. So I can't wait to hear. She wants to actually talk about some of this stuff. Like back to 101. That was a good segue. She's like, I think we sometimes also get over complicated. She's like, she was like, I want to talk about like, let's just go back to the basics. Let's make
I love
sure
it.
we've got the basics, like fine tune it, really, really get into that and nail your basics before
Yes.
you get lost in all these things out here that like, oh, new tools and apps and this and that. And I was thinking like, wait, let's come back and nail the basics. So
Yep. Yep.
tune in for that. That's going to be a great conversation. Ben, again, thank you so
Can't
much
wait.
for all your great knowledge and information about the meetups, the gatherings, and just AI and innovation at organizations in general. Appreciate your
Thanks so
insight.
much, Chad.
Yeah,
Yeah. Bye,
that's great.
everyone.
Okay, bye, everyone.